Hey guys, so this is my behind the scenes of today with Pastor Jay. Ooh, I might have. I don't. I'm good. And we have Joshua Russell here. He's the owner and president of Dark Side Sports Inc. And we're going to go in talk about what he's doing here in Flagler County. All right, Mark. Whenever you're ready, we'll go right in. You got it cold in here.
You are now tuned in to Today with Pastor Jay on WNZF News Radio, where we discuss inspiring and informative news. And now here's your host, Pastor Jerlyn Denny.
Good morning, good morning. Wake up, good morning. It's a wonderful, beautiful, and great day. It's a great, great, great day. Oh my goodness, Christmas is right around the corner. I'm not ready. I don't think I've purchased any gifts. Well, I just haven't. Hadn't had the time, but I'll get it. I will get it all together. But my highly esteemed guest today is Joshua Russell. I want to say good morning. Thank you for joining me.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So I get this phone call, and this is how I meet Mr. Russell here. I get a phone call from someone that's in the hospital talking about, you have got to meet this guy. You need to meet this guy. He's on fire. He's great. He's this, he's that, and go all down the list. And I'm like, who is he? Who is he? Who is he? And I get an opportunity to meet with you. You live here locally.
Yes, ma'am.
You do. And a young man, I don't want to ask you your age, but I'm going to ask you anyway.
I'm 32.
32 years young. I have children your age. I'm not old. I'm not old. And what was so phenomenal about the phone call was that you are interested in individuals and students, particularly dealing with mental health issues. Tell us about yourself and how you've gotten involved, because you started an organization called Dark Side Sports.
Right. So I am originally from this area.
Okay.
I went to high school at Matanzas.
Matanzas High School. Okay.
But grew up for the majority of my life in Daytona. We moved up to Palm Coast my sophomore year in high school. So we, make a long story short, we started with Dark Side because I coach high school football, and I'm connected with a bunch of other guys that are so invested in mentoring, especially when it comes to kids from that type of demographic. So with that, we started Dark Side Sports because we wanted to be able to take the sports side and marry it to the mental health side of it. So one of our biggest things that we focus on when it comes to Dark Side is the 4 pillars of mental health. So you have the physical, the emotional, the cognitive, and the social aspect. So we looked at it and we paid attention to all these kids that were playing sports, and we started to pay attention to the fact that when sports seasons started to end, a lot of those 4 pivotal areas in a lot of those kids' lives started to kind of take a decline. So their social aspect, they were interactive with a bunch of their friends that all were playing sports, but when they were outside of sports, they became very much introverts, I guess is the best way of saying it. So that lowered their social aspect in their lives.
Yeah, and that could create depression.
Exactly.
Having that need to connect, because when you're part of a team, you're part of the team. You have an identity,
Right.
And a lot of times people don't have that identity outside of sports. Don't have that identity outside of something else, and those introverts become extroverts, and then all of a sudden the sport is over. Now what?
Right.
Especially when you're winning. In your winning season, that's kind of a high. I'm a
Exactly.
sports mom. All 7 of my children have participated in some sport or another. I wasn't too fond of football, though. I'm going to tell you, because I was afraid my baby's going to get hurt.
No, I got you.
I let him play a little bit, but that was about the extent.
No, I get it. I
Yeah.
do.
So how do you go from coaching football to being excited about football to really saying, hey, there's a mental health aspect tied to it?
So I will be completely honest with you. I have been put into a great situation. When I started coaching high school football, I started coaching underneath some very, how do I want to say that? I started coaching underneath some very in tune head coaches,
Okay.
and they made it very purposeful for me to know that when you started dealing with high school kids, it's not so much about the sport, it's more so about the relationship. One head coach in particular, I coached underneath Travis Rowland when he was at FPC, and
Okay.
then started coaching back underneath him again at Mainland. But one of the biggest things that he taught me just as a coach was the relationship part of it. So that allowed
Got to
me
give a shout out to Travis, right?
absolutely, absolutely.
Great mentor to have.
Yeah, 100%. But that also allowed me to get started with Dark Side because it was so much about the relationship side of it. So the relationship side of it allowed me to be in tune with those kids even outside of the sports. So you started to notice different actions and different activities that were happening outside of sports. So that's how it allowed us to be able to kind of marry the sport and the mental health side of it together. Just being able to focus on the relationship side of it when it comes to those kids.
How involved do you get? I mean, as a coach, you're a coach and sometimes a mentor, and some may even say a friend with family issues at home, because there's a lot of things that's going on in a home: broken families, unemployment. I mean, these last few years, especially during COVID and things that have been happening, mental health issues have been on a rise. But also, when we look at the family unit, some of the family units have been broken due to
Right.
divorce.
So for so for me and for the coaches that I know personally, I can't speak for every coach, but for the coaches that I know personally, um, that we make that a whole entire thing. Like that becomes the whole relationship with us. Like I said, it's more than just the sport itself. So if those kids are having a rough time, if they have anything going on at home, any of those things, we become that open, that listening ear. Obviously, we try to provide as much assistance as we can. But the biggest part of it is just being the listening ear, just being able to understand and kind of relate to where they are in those certain situations. Which is why I said, like, for us, especially within our organization, like the demographic that we service a lot, we almost can relate directly to those kids.
So let's talk about the demographic that you service.
Right. So, for a lot of us, a lot of the kids that come through our organization are usually kids. I won't say that they come from like impoverished families or anything like that, but nowadays with this type of economy, like most parents are either working 2 and 3 jobs. So those kids are they're pretty much having to be
Home
extra
alone,
responsible,
having to
right?
be extra responsible.
All of those things.
Yeah.
So we being able to relate to those kids, like it makes it easier to have them open up to be able to talk about certain things that they have going on because they can see themselves relatable to you versus them trying to open up and talk to a complete stranger about what they have going on at home. Whether, like I said, it's not always like people tend to automatically assume that you're talking about impoverished families and all of those things, but it's not necessarily that. If you grow up in a single parent home nowadays, 9 times out of 10, your parent isn't there
That's
because
true.
they're working all day, every day, just to make sure that you have some type of sustainable lifestyle. Because of that, because of that, it does provide them with the financial side of it, but then you still lose the social side of it. You still lose the physical aspect of it, which is why, like I said before, we focus so heavily on all four of those pillars
Right.
because you could have one of them or you could have two or three of them, but if you're lacking in one of those four, then that starts to kind of go at your mental health as well.
Let's talk about the physical aspect, because it is quite demanding to play football.
Right.
Not that I would know or anything.
No, I got you.
I mean, I can charge and rush to the refrigerator real quick.
There you go.
I mean, that's my superpower. But that physical workout and doing that, the discipline of the physical workout and then it dropping, physical activity, working out, all those things have been linked to good mental health. I know this because I have to do it to maintain my own mental health, right?
Right.
So season is over. No one's there telling them to run, to do all these physical things. What types of things do you have outside of season, would you say?
So we try to get involved in the community a lot as well. So we do community fundraisers. We try to do mental health fairs that we try to do at least once every summer. We do a lot of different things that
Bring awareness to what you're doing.
community service outreach. A lot of the kids that we have that play in our organizations also help out with youth organizations as well. So when they're not in season or doing any of those things, they're always encouraged to be able to go and kind of give back to the community that gave you.
All right. Well, we got to take a break. Don't go anywhere. Blah, 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 blah. I was doing good, Mark, and then I made a mistake. It's pre-recorded, so we good. All right. We got to take a break. Don't go anywhere. Don't touch that dial. You are listening to Today with Pastor Jay. All right. You ready? You good? You comfortable? Real good. Real easy. All the stuff you already know. I'm not going to ask you no crazy questions.
No, I got you.
Okay. Welcome back. Welcome back. You're listening to Today with Pastor Jay, and I have Joshua Russell, young man that went to Matanzas High School. He's now the owner and president of Dark Side Sports, Inc., and just want to develop some student athletes here in the community. The age group is about what?
So we've expanded now. Initially, we were doing anywhere from 15 to 18, and now we've gotten to the point where we do roughly about 13 to 18 years old.
And how many students do you have in your organization?
On each team that we have, we usually keep about 20 kids. So,
Oh my goodness. How many teams do you have?
right now, we only have 2. We've definitely had a demand to increase all the way down to ages of like 10 years old.
And where you guys practice?
So right now we practice down in Daytona.
Oh, wow.
Yep,
Okay.
we practice at Derbyshire Park in Daytona.
Nice.
Mhm.
That's a lot of students, a lot of personalities. How many coaches do you have?
So
And they all volunteers and
yes,
people
yeah,
from Flagler go to Volusia.
we do. We have last year we had about 50% of our organization was composed of Flagler County kids, and 50% was Volusia County kids.
That's crazy.
Mhm.
Now that's a commitment that just shows that
It is.
people love what you're doing. I mean, for students to have to go from Flagler to Volusia County and to play this particular sport, it's not even about the sport. I would say it's about your organization where they feel like you guys are a family, right?
Right, definitely.
How would you think social media has affected mental health when it comes to sports? Because this is crazy. I don't watch the TikTok videos, but I hear about these things and the Snapchats and the peer pressure
Right.
of doing stuff. How do you maintain some semblance of responsibility within the team when it comes to peer pressure and maybe some bullying aspects?
One of the better things that we've started recently doing is we usually actually have contract with mental health therapists, and we have them come out once a month to talk to our athletes, to our kids, however you want to label it. But we usually have at least one mental health therapist come out once a month, and then I know I keep kind of harping on it, but we go right back to that 4 pillars of mental health. So we have one come out every month, and they kind of hit on one of the 4 pillars of mental health, and we use that as their way of like open forum, open dialogue, so that way it makes kids comfortable enough to be able to have the conversations. If they don't want to have the conversations, the information is provided for them so that they can have it in their own private time as well.
So is this open to everyone that want to participate in the sports, or are you going to be cut from the team?
No, nobody's cut from the team. So we do tryouts because it is a sports organization that is kind of that mental health is tied into. So we do tryouts, but for the kids that are on the team, like that service is provided. And then, like I said, for the open general community, we usually try to do at least once a year. We try to do a mental health fair where it's kind of like a fun day, is what we like, because we're talking about kids. Most kids are going to be more appealed to the fun activity,
Right,
and
of
then
course.
you can attach the mental health to it as you get them in. So we do a mental health fair at least once every year, and it's usually like a fun day event for us. We try to get bounce houses and all that other stuff out there, and then we usually connect with the mental health therapists that we've used throughout the season.
I've got to ask about the name Dark Side. Come on, what's that about?
I got you.
Because
So-
I play on the light side of the team.
I
You
got
know,
you.
because Jesus is the light. So what's up with the dark side?
So the reason why we named it Dark Side is because and I'm a Christian as well, but as much as we want to highlight the better parts of life, you still have to acknowledge that there are some darker parts in the life. And that's not necessarily saying that we're glorifying it, but we are still acknowledging that it's at least there. And for the kids that play in those that play within our organization, they understand that. It's not to be intimidated or anything like that. It's just more so to show, like, listen, just as well as everybody on social media wants to show that they have like everybody's life is like glitz and glamour. Like, there are still some people that struggle on a
Right.
daily basis, and we want to let those people know, like, even though you do struggle, like, that when you have a team behind you, you have support, you have an organization that's going to stand toe to toe with you,
Right.
then you can overcome all those things as well.
This is great. And I know there's cost involved. You haven't turned any child away because of like a lack of financial means or anything, but it costs money.
Yes.
And you're seeking your 501c3 designation. This is kind of cool, but you could use some sponsors, right? So
Yes.
I see you've got some sponsorship packages here, bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. What does it cost to put something like this on? Would you have a yearly budget?
Yes, like per team, we usually do have a yearly budget. For us to successfully get through a whole entire season, with the mental health and all that other stuff attached to it, it usually runs us anywhere from about $10,000 to $15,000.
That's really good. That's excellent. How many games do you guys have a season?
We usually run anywhere from 6 to 8 tournaments a season. Those tournaments can vary from anywhere from 1 to 2 day tournaments. And we
And you
try
have
to.
to pay for those too.
You do, and the bigger
The
ones.
travel and all this other kind of stuff, entry fees. Not that I know anything about this.
No,
stuff.
no, I got you.
You can
But
tell
yes,
I know a little bit about
absolutely,
it.
you do.
Yeah.
You have to pay. It's a very competitive part to it, and like I said, for me, it's more so that's our way of getting those kids in, because those kids are in any other situation, they are at home, subject to their own devices, doing whatever they're doing on their downtime. For us, being able to put together this organization is just to try to give them another reason
Right.
to be involved in an extracurricular activity that has a meaningful purpose behind it. And then we just use that opportunity, and we use their interest to be able to keep them involved and keep them out of trouble.
Do you have a website?
Yes.
Okay, what is it?
It is Darkside Sports
With a Z?
.square.site.
Okay, Dark Side Sports with a Z .square .site.
Site.
This is impressive. We got to take another break. Don't go anywhere. Don't touch that dial. You are listening to Today with Pastor Jay. How much time I have? I just figured that was a good place to take a break because I was getting ready to go into a different. 5 minutes. Okay, really good. All right, just make sure I don't forget what I'm doing and how I'm doing. 2 separate warm-ups, gloves, all that other kind of stuff. You ready? I want to give a thank you and a shout out to Steve Verrier, the Florida Mortgage Center.com. Thank you for sponsoring Today with Pastor Jay and Church on a Rock. If it wasn't for you guys, I would not be on the air. Sponsors are important. Stuff costs money, right? You
Yes.
know, I say it all the time, and you've been doing this now. How long you've been having this on?
So this would be going into our 3rd year. We've
Wow,
done-
you've been doing this for 3 years, holding it down, holding it down.
Yep.
That's impressive. That's really. You live and work here in Flagler County. You're so committed to this. I can see that. When your season start?
Our season starts in January. We have tryouts on December the 20th. So
December.
Wednesday.
Okay.
This
Tryouts
Wednesday.
are coming up this Wednesday. And do you have already a roster, a list, people returning?
We do have a couple kids that are returning. I tell them all the time that everybody tries out, just because, I mean, you never want to put kids in a position where they feel like they don't get a fair shot.
That's
so
true.
Everybody tries out. But yes, we do have some kids that are coming back that were on the team last year. They have to go through tryouts just like everybody else.
You got to go through tryouts just like everyone. We'll give them a break. You need some water? You good?
Mhm.
Okay. So if you had a magic wand, not that I believe in that, what is it that you need today? I know that's like heavy. You're like,
It is.
Pastor
it is.
Jay, what could I get? Could it be helmets? I mean, Equipment's expensive.
Equipment is expensive. We've been fortunate enough to be able to cover our equipment in the off season. Um, biggest, I guess, the biggest thing for us would be tournament costs.
Yeah.
Yep, that would be the biggest thing at this stage.
What's the average tournament cost?
Average tournaments usually run you anywhere from they usually run you roughly about 550.
Wow.
Yep, per tournament.
Wow. Well, I'm going to sponsor a tournament.
Thank you.
If that's what it takes, $550, Jarlin Ministries is going to sponsor a tournament for you. And I want to encourage those that are listening to do the same, to go to Darkside Sports with a Z.square.site, get involved and learn what's going on in the community. This is huge. And I think this is great that you are encouraging others. Do you have a wait list?
No wait list.
So once you fill these teams, if people are still coming in, you'll start another team.
I will. Like like I said, as long as we have the financial backing to be able to do so, absolutely. Like I said, we've definitely received requests for us to be able to expand the organization, but as you and I'm pretty sure everybody else knows, like with the expansion also costs more money. So for us right now, we're running 2 teams, but it's not because we have lack of interest. It's more so just the lack of the resources to be able to do more than that.
Do you have a couple of favorite moments that you'd like to share that you went, I know the Lord told me to do this and I'm doing this, and sometimes it's been challenging. And then all of a sudden something happens, you go, okay, that's enough for me to go on.
Yeah, I would say maybe it seems to happen the same around the same time every year. When we get ready to do tryouts, usually it kind of gets a little frustrated trying to figure out financial side of it. But once we get into the tryout part of it, we typically get to the point where like our first year tryouts wise, we had over 80 kids show up.
Wow.
Last year we had almost double that. So I can only imagine what tryouts are going to look like this upcoming year on this upcoming Wednesday, but I'm excited.
When you think about mental health, especially in the Black communities, and Black and brown communities, that's something no one wants to talk about.
Right.
And this is something that's the forefront of what you're doing when it comes to sports and football. And have you had people look at you and go, hey, look, Black man, we ain't talking about mental health. Where you going with that?
Which is, yeah. And I mean, you just like anything else, like you have your pushbacks with it. But only thing I will say to combat that is for every 1 or 2 people that you have that pushback, you get about 2 or 3 kids that actually decide to open up. And anybody that has ever had to deal with kids that from a mental health side of it, like those 2 to 3 kids that open up and actually let you in and actually start to feel comfortable around you, it's worth it.
It is worth it. It's worth it. I want to thank you so very much for spending your time with me. Again, it's Darkside Sports. You can find them on Facebook, on Instagram, on X, and you can also go to Darkside Sports with a Z.square.site. And if you want to call them for additional information, you can call 386-569-0127. I just want to thank you for all the things that you're doing in our community, for lifting up the students here, not just in Flagler, but also in Volusia County. I can only thank you, but the Lord is going to bless you and bless your efforts. God bless you.
Thank you.
All right, guys, you know what I say? Yesterday's gone. Tomorrow's not promised. What are you going to do today? Today, I'm going to challenge all of you to commit to give a monthly donation to Darkside Sports. Give a monthly donation, even if it's just $5, $50. Some of you can write the $5,000 checks. Do it today for the mental health of other children. God bless you. Have a wonderful day.